All right, the other Friday night game, Colorado State and Wyoming. We've got Wyoming 7-point home favorites, 42.5, 43 being the total. Now, this is Wyoming at home. It's always a very, very tough place to beat this team. They've played consistently good football for the most part at home under Craig Bohl, but they're favored. And they're not only favored, they're favored by 7 here in this game. And this is not the type of price range I like Wyoming at home. I like Wyoming at home, but when I back them at home, I prefer them in a pick 'em. I prefer them as an underdog. I don't necessarily love it when they're 7-point home favorites. And if you actually look at the times they've been favored at home this year, Conor, Portland State, they were 28-point home favorites. They won by 14, so they didn't cover. App State, they were 3-point favorites. They won by 3. It was a push. They probably should have lost the game. Remember, they had that blocked field goal for a touchdown that won the game against App State at home there. And then the other time they were home favorites, New Mexico, 35-26, 14.5-point favorites. They didn't cover. So they've been good at home as in a pick 'em. They've been good at home as an underdog this year. We saw it against Texas Tech early in the season. We saw it against Fresno State at home, where they won outright as 6-point home dogs. So as home dogs, they've been good. Home favorites, not so much for this Wyoming team. So I kind of lean to the other side here, Colorado State. A Colorado State team that's coming off, a tough couple of losses. They had that big win against Boise where they came back and they won it on that Hail Mary, which was a crazy finish in that victory against Boise a couple weeks ago. They lost a tough one to UNLV, heartbreaker. UNLV beat them with a last-second field goal at Alliance Stadium there in Las Vegas. And then Air Force, 30-13 last week. I mean, that game really, keep in mind, too, the Zach Larrier, 2 weeks in a row, the Air Force quarterback, people thought that he wouldn't play, and he did play. So a little bit of injury tomfoolery there with them leading you to believe he might not play, but he played in both games the last couple weeks for Air Force at quarterback. But, you look at Colorado State, obviously they were up against it there. Air Force is a really good team. I still don't mind the way he's played this year at quarterback, Fowler Nicolosi. Too many interceptions, but he also does have a 63.6% completion rate and 16 touchdowns for Braden Fowler Nicolosi, who's been the quarterback the last several weeks for Colorado State. I lost with Wyoming, so maybe it's recency bias here, but that was ugly from their offense, and that was bad Andrew Peasley. That's all there is to it. 50% completions, only 85 passing yards, and that's the problem. I think Wyoming wins in spite of this guy at quarterback because he's just not great. When they win, it's the run game's good, the defense is really good, the special teams makes an impact, but it's not because of their quarterback as to why they win games, Wyoming. He's not great, and I worry about that here against Colorado State, who, look, Colorado State on defense, they've not been great, but maybe that's an opening for Peasley to improve, but they've not been great as home chalk. Colorado State is a team that, they were competitive in the loss at UNLV, and the road dog role, they've been very good. Colorado, we saw what happened there, took that game down to the wire to overtime, won outright as a dog at Middle Tennessee. And then Boise State as a dog, 7.5-point dogs at home against Boise. They won outright, 6.5-point road underdogs at UNLV. They lose by 2. So the underdog role, and especially the road underdog role, has been pretty good to Colorado State. I'm leaning with the Rams here on Friday night. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, and it's going to be cold and windy on Friday night, too. I got winds over 20 miles an hour here at Laramie. So we'll see how much that affects this game. Colorado State, we know they want to throw the ball around. That's one of Wyoming's strengths on defense. They're pretty good. Their secondary is good. They only give up 210 passing yards per game. And on the flip side, Wyoming's going to want to run it. Yeah, Peasley. We talked about it on Saturday morning. He just has to be okay and good. And he has been most of the year. I mean, he was awful, but he was bad. And after that first quarter, Wyoming was out of the game. Yeah. Like it was like 8-7, and they just got blown out, especially the second half. I think they win this game. It's just tough, like you talked about, to lay a touchdown here with Wyoming. So yeah, I lean the dog a little bit. I want to mention, and their defense though is not very good. Colorado State's against the run. They gave like 170 yards. So Wyoming should be able to run it down their throat.